So, Bill, tell us what you think of that wonderful image.
Because it's coastal, I think it could be whale skins, or with some land as well, it could be animal hides, or less likely reeds. But that's probably not weed growing country.
Right. This is a building from approximately 10,000 years ago that we're going to be looking at in next week. This is a place called Hawick, H-O-W-I-C-K. Don't ask how they come up with that, but it's known as Hawick in Northumberland. Pardon? Hawick.
Not what you're saying, H-O-I.
Hawick.
H-U-W.
H-O-W-I-C-K.
Yeah, but you're pronouncing it O-I.
I just said Hawick.
Oik.
Hawick. Anyway, any other ideas what this could have been covered with?
It's got to be church. It's got to be something like. It's got to be something like.
Well, the answer will come.
I can't you can't be out marching any earth or swords or anything against it because it's not strong.
You could think about skins. You could think about reeds, brushwood, various other materials, thatched. Obviously not covered in any stonework at all, but we'll come on to that. But this, even though
is that completely before the cover goes on? Is it anything more to
No.
structurally to finish it off?
That's probably not complete because there's no purlins on it. But I'm just asking what you think that might be. Just as a bit of a taster. Anyway, this week we're going to be looking as much as we can at the site of Pontnewydd. We're going to be looking at a place known as Starcar. Pontnewydd is in North Wales. Starcar is in Yorkshire. And the whole point of this is to get more of a feel of the Paleolithic period. I've used this as a starting off image for this today. The first image we start off with is Starcar. We'll be doing Starcar, a little bit of Starcar this week. Next week will be more devoted to Starcar because we've got a lot to get through. And I'm very aware that I'm very late today, but our break today is going to have to be very short because I don't have any sandwiches to eat. And we don't have Dorothy to keep us entertained. Glenda, you can keep us entertained, but it's not acceptable. Anyway, the site that we then turn to is Pontnewydd Caves in North Wales. And the very interesting thing about Pontnewydd Caves, it's got a large array of remains of various animals that have been found, dating back as far ago as 250,000 years ago, 250,000 years ago. But what animal is this tooth from?
Sheep.
Robert?
And it is bottom top.
Yes.
Cat.
Sheep, cat.
It's a carnivore.
George?
Well, it's something bigger than a cat.
Robert?
It looks like a cat type. It's a carnivore.
Do you want to let John?
Carnivorous animals.
Yeah, semi-carnivorous, if you can count eating berries and meat. This is actually from one of our human ancestors. This is actually a humanoid tooth. The person who had this tooth, a child of 9 years old, had a condition known as pterodontism. And pterodontism is a disease that gradually occurs where the roots of your teeth start to expand into your jawline. And it's a condition that is associated with a large number of human remains associated with our Neanderthal brethren. And pterodontism is also a complaint that afflicts individuals today. And in my notes, I use the unfortunate word children and adults who are retarded. That's what I wrote in my notes. So in other words, people with disabilities that are excessive can be seen to have this condition as well. Also, Down's children have also got pterodontism as well. Sorry I used the word retarded, but unfortunately it's an old term that archaeologists still use, which I'm not going to use any further. So, pterodontism is believed to have been passed into the human gene pool via Neanderthals. So that's another piece of evidence that our 4 to 8% DNA in our bodies today, which is Neanderthal, and this is one of those conditions that has gone through into the human gene pool, taurodontism. The site that we're going to look at on Ewan is to be found up here. Last week we looked at Paverland, and there's actually part of the jaw of a child at 9 years old. You can see that taurodontism is meant to just afflict the molars, but it does actually affect the other teeth as well. You can see there that the root itself has mutated and fused. So in other words, one of the reasons why Neanderthals have larger jawbone, mandibles, is simply because of taurodontism. It's obviously having an effect, but the teeth are still embedded in the jaw, so that says a lot. In Pontnewer, they found over 19 human teeth. Molar, premolar, and canine incisor. So this is Pontnewer Cave as you're looking into it. It was used, it was commandeered by the war effort in 1940, because if the Germans had invaded, they would have probably made it up to North Wales within weeks. And this was one of the locations where the British Army was going to hold out. This is where they kept their ammunition. But it didn't happen that way. And the ammunition store was taken away, and the cave system itself remained closed and intact. And anything that was to be found in there was to be kept for future generations until it was excavated in 1977, 1978, and the excavations continued until the 2000s. It was asked if I put my head up alongside this to see if you can see any Neanderthal characteristics.
Yeah, you can see it in eyebrows.
Yeah? I'm actually quite okay with that because apparently there's a predominance of Neanderthal genes in my family. After all, we are Gippos. The Neanderthal characteristics is a receding jawbone, because ours protrude, as you know. The nasal cavity is much larger, big nose. Forehead is more pronounced, and you've got the eyebrows are more pronounced as well. A little bit more about that in a short while. But we have actually found adult bones in Pontnewer Cave. And the reason why it's so significant is because the human remains at Pontnewer Cave are the oldest human remains to be found in Great Britain. We have got human artifacts, humanoid artifacts, you know, axes and various other bits and pieces, but human remains are a different kettle of fish altogether. It happens to be that the oldest human remains found in Britain are actually Neanderthal human remains, or humanoid remains. This is looking at a comparison of taurodontism, of remains from the Neanderthal man compared with a tooth from a healthy Neanderthal, where the molars are completely different. You may correct me, there have been found human remains at Boxgrove, dated back about 500,000 years old, but a significant assemblage of human remains. This is the best set of human remains, the oldest, best set of human remains found anywhere in Britain, up to 250,000 years ago. And there's the differences. What are the differences? Well, first of all, the brain case of the Neanderthal is bigger. Not to say that they were more intelligent, but the brain case was much better. There's also a bud at the back of the skull. Those that have studied Akhenaten, the ancient Egyptian pharaoh from approximately 1,540 odd years BC, will notice that there's a weird elongated skull. That's a typical characteristic of Neanderthal. I'm not saying there was a set of pharaohs that were directly linked to Neanderthals, but the skulls were very similar to that in Archaeopteryx family. But anyway, bigger skulls than a human being. The forehead is pronounced in the way that it's a bit more driven forward rather than it's rounded. The brow ridge is more pronounced. Why there's a more pronounced brow ridge is difficult to explain. The nasal bone projection, well, if we take this, the nose itself would project something like that, whereas a human would project something like that. So you can imagine, up here, and that's much smaller. My family's is known for its big noses, particularly my sister. And my granddad, we used to call him Beaker. He used to go like this. I don't know if that's because we've got the Neanderthal gene, but I know what it's like to have a big nose. And the point is, with a big nose, is that you take cold air and it goes into your lungs, and you've got bigger lungs, and that cold air is warmed. That's why Neanderthals were really stocky and had bigger lungs. That's probably because Michelle is really stocky as well. She might be a Neanderthal. You've been being able to beat it tonight, and you'll be able to tell her that.
Tonight?
Yes.
Oh, good. Boys, tell me any old dirt on him, and I'll tell Michelle.
Oh, she knows about all the sordid affairs I've had with Anne and Dorothy.
I'm joking.
No, I don't think so.
I'm joking.
Yeah, but what I get up to with Kathy, right, is nobody's business. What's that? God bless you. Cheekbone angulation, basically probably more to cope with the mastication with the larger teeth. Anyway, chin, receding, protruding, and there you go. Moving on. We're not doing Neanderthals per se. It's said that this problem with the tooth problem itself only affects molars. This is clearly a set of canines. These are affected as well. There's no evidence to say that these individuals would have been in pain with taurodontism. There's no evidence to say that they were more prone to have problems with their bones in their jaw. And there's nothing to say that the teeth would have just fallen out, because we've got evidence of the teeth actually in jaws. But there are more teeth from Pont Newydd Cave, and that's another image. You might think that the site was excavated in the late 1970s, used as a bomb store in the 1940s. Well, when they used it as a bomb store, the level of the cave, it was levelled. So there probably are some artifacts still under here. The stuff that they excavated in the 1970s was found at the back of the cave. But interestingly enough, the best artifacts were found buried out at the mouth of the cave, 6 meters down below. Because what happened is as glaciers would melt, obviously this period saw many glaciers after a quarter of a million years, and water would rush into the cave and wash loads of bones and everything out into a pit in front. And that's basically where they found lots of artifacts. And in fact, this probably saved the artifacts in the cave. You can imagine people going to the back of the cave saying, "Look at what I found." Well, obviously it saved it. It kept it safe. That's Pont Newydd, the valley. You can imagine that the valley itself would be much further out, much better, much more to see than there is today. Neanderthals in Wales. Little caves and so on have been explored even today to find actually remains of our Neanderthal and human ancestors. They have actually found human remains in the cave 100,000 years after the Neanderthals left the cave. Illustration of some of the work in about 2005. The excavations at the back of the cave. And that's what the cave used to look like. So this area here is where they've been excavating 6 foot down artifacts. Obviously the cave would have come out a lot further, but this is where lots of the artifacts have been found, as well as the depth of the cave as well. What's wrong with this illustration is they couldn't light fires. Anyway, no, back to what we said last week. Close. Now, I'm going to say
It must
something.
be very warm there.
Not with the animals they found. No, we found lots of remains of various different animals. One thing I will say, I saw a program about it was roughly about 2000. So that was 17 years ago. Somebody had done a program about Neanderthals, right? And they got the program right. They all had heavy skins and all the rest of it. Except it got a bit dodgy when they showed a Neanderthal copulating. Except you couldn't see anything because apparently when they had sex, they wore clothes. So I was very disappointed. Anyway, clothes, skins, and all the rest of it. A bad illustration as usual, but yes, they did have fires. And this is a nice little interesting thing. And actually, we've done all the images for Pontnewy at this minute. So this is actually, can you see this? This is a stone. This is a stone, as you can see, 30 millimeters. So the actual dimensions are a little bit smaller than that. But this stone was actually found at Star-Carr. Star-Carr is a site that goes back nearly as far as about 11,000 years ago. And they found a stone with some weird lines on it.
Did you say 30 millimeters or centimeters?
30 millimeters. So it'd be about 3 centimeters. So about
an inch.
that size. When they started looking at this, they got an expert to look at it. A petrologist to look at it. And the petrologist noticed that when it goes back again, that the first lines on it, when it comes back, sorry, can't stop it. These first lines on it coming up were older than those lines, and older than those little lines, and older than those little lines. Basically, this stone had been used over a period of time to write on, okay, to mark on.
It's a calendar?
Is it a calendar? Is it a map? Because there's a central line there. Is it a map? Is it a form of keeping a tally?
I'll go for tally.
But they didn't keep records in the past. They didn't do anything like this. So when archaeologists actually find things like this, we actually start to think what they were told in university was completely wrong. If this is a form of record keeping 11,000 years ago, then the whole word history needs to be rewritten because they're keeping records. And I'm not going to say it, but maybe that's form of language.
Is it inscribed on both sides or just?
Just on the one side. But this could have been worn around the neck because that's the hole.
So it must be worn.
So you could have worn it around the neck like with a pendant, right?
It was your name, and then, you know, because they must
Oh,
have
if it's their name, they had writing, they had language, they've got history. So that's the thing, you see, is this, and then somebody, oh God, I had a new person turn up in Lantuit Major today, and they said, we don't want him along again. I thought, oh God. But that same person turned around and sort of interrupted, and he said, well, these caves in France, and I said, Lascaux, he said, yeah, he said, and in other places like Altamira, they've actually started to find amongst the paintings, you went to Altamira, didn't you? They started to find little dots in strange little places. They couldn't work out what those dots are, but there's talk that might actually be a form of writing. This dot means this, that dot means that, those two dots mean this. Well, in fact, our human language is a bit odd, isn't it? Just a load of lines and the circles.
It's information of some kind.
It's information of some kind. What are they trying to say? Anyway. And this is Star-Carr today. And I'll show you where Star-Carr is in a minute. That's headgear.
Yeah.
We'll do a bit more, but we're doing lots about Star-Carr next week, but that's sort of a headgear, antler, skull case, and antlers. And this itself, they found 21 of these at Star-Carr, and what they are, if I don't say it today, we'll do next week. They found 95% of all bone harpoons from the Paleolithic period found at this one site. So if this site hadn't been found, they would have found a single antler harpoon on dry land, because the rest of them had been washed up from Doggerland, and some of them were lost in the Second World War when the Luftwaffe bombed Hull Museum that had a collection of the antlers, the antler harpoons, and none of them are as old as this. This is 95% of the collection. So if Star Carlin had been found, we wouldn't have these things. And lots of them, some of them about a foot in length, some of them much smaller. You can use them by hand, you just chuck them in the water, and so on. But we found quite a large number of these. Star Car, if I show you this, there's Scarborough, there's Star Car, there's 5 miles apart, and there it is there, along the Yorkshire coastline, Northumberland up here, Yorkshire coastline. So Hoyk is further up here, or Oik, and it's a weird little plant, can't really see much. It was really good when I got it, but there's Star Car there, Scarborough's up there, and Star Car there overlooks this landscape. And this landscape itself would have been flooded back 11,000 years ago. Hang on, if the ice was melting, and all this over here was dry land because it hadn't been flooded yet, because all the ice caps hadn't melted, why have we got loads of water here when there's no water there today? The reason why is that, yes, the ice is melted, but in some of those upland areas you still have half a mile high of ice. That's what we're talking about. Some of the ice sheet itself was about a mile high across Britain at one point. Imagine a mile high of water compacted. And as that's melted, the water is draining away off further, go up there, and we'll drain off into the ocean itself. Two other things. When you look at archaeology, the original interpretation of this site, when it was found in 1947, excavated by a certain Professor Clark, when Clark was actually excavating, he said that this was a floating platform, or a platform anchored into the muddy landscape underneath, because there was a boggy-like landscape underneath, and there was about half a metre of water, and there was a platform on the top held up by stakes. This is where they actually lived. But then a few years ago, they actually excavated on dry land, and they actually found out that they got a settlement on dry land. Now the archaeologists are saying that they would have lived on dry land, and then they would have lived hovering above the water in the summer months or something. You can't tell any of that though. The main thing is that this site is being used 11,000 years ago, and that's the evidence of the structures as they've fallen into the watery beds of Lake Flixton as it was. There you go. That is one of the 21 of these. And what you've got two little islets. So you'd put your head up there, and you might use it for ceremonial uses. You might use it for hunting, or you might use it as we did the other week when we looked at skulls, human skulls, when the human skull itself would be used to drink out of, a bit more practical in killing other beasts. But then again, we don't know anything more than what I'm saying. Yeah. And this is this is Star Car as it is today. Star Car itself is a very unique site. The reason why it's unique site is that the archaeology is so very old. We're talking about 11,000 years ago. Any peat bog landscapes that we find across Britain, like the Musk Farm near Peterborough, they found a site there dating back 3,000 years with everything perfectly preserved. Even wooden bowls with the last meal on it before the settlement was set alight. Perfect archaeology. But that's only 3,000 years ago. That's 11,000 years ago. Bog bodies that have been found in Denmark and Netherlands and peat marsh in, I think it was about Manchester, and you got the peat bogs in Ireland and all the rest of it. those sorts of landscapes, those peat bogs bodies are only about 2,000 years old. And when they find the peat bog bodies, all the bone itself has been eaten away by the acid, but the flesh has been tanned and the flesh is still there. Here, they've got bones. They've got everything. But human remains are a bit thin on the ground, but they've got other animal bones, so the acid hasn't eaten away at the animal bones. Oh, and I just remembered when we oh Bill, you'll love this one. When we were in the Shetland Museum, right? It was one of those weird museums that you go around and you just couldn't get out of it. And they even had seats. So I was sat there, plonked in front of a cabinet, looking at things for about 10 minutes, and I'd go to the next cabinet, look at it. And then we got around the corner, Michelle said, you know, we've just spent 4 hours looking around the museum. Do you know we've only just done a third of it? And at that moment we thought, oh, I can't be bothered with it anymore. We just went for a cup of tea. But in one of the cabinets, there was this big white weird thing, right? And it was bog butter. It was original bog butter. Butter, basically, what they would do, they would make the butter they make butter into butter, or cheese, is it bog butter? And then what they would do, they would wrap it with some kind of flax or linen or whatever. They would wrap it up, right? And then they would put it in the bog. That would preserve it, and then you get out the bog and whatever. And apparently, the best bog butter you kept, and the worst of your bog butter you gave us in taxes. So say it was a really bad year and a tax collector come along, you'd give them the worst of the bog butter, right? And it was still there. It was perfect. I don't know how old this bog butter was, but it's at least 1,000 years old. Is this bog butter still there? And you felt like going in there and just getting your knife in and just spread it on bread. It was perfect. Bog butter there. Amazing. That's preservation of things. Things preserved in different ways, in different soils and conditions. The Starcar is a unique site, again, that the archaeology is still okay. It's survived after 50, 60 years of being found. I forgot the late 1940s, about 70 years ago. But anyway, it's still there. It's still under the ground. It's really good state of preservation, except when the archaeologist, tip of my tongue now, St. John something, when he was excavating in 1910 at the Somerset Lakes village sites, which are basically Iron Age, they were really well preserved, good state preservation. When they've gone back to excavate them now, there's very little of it left. They have to leave all the timber there. But the archaeology is really well preserved here still. The same with Flag Fen down in Peterborough way, which we'll probably not do, but that's really well preserved. Horses for courses. The landscape's being drained, but the archaeology is still really well preserved. Is Paleolithic archaeology 11,000 years old? So how deep do you reckon the archaeology is? Trick question. If it's 11,000 years old, right? How deep is the archaeology?
You don't know that.
Yeah.
30 feet?
You would think so, wouldn't you? Except it's not. It's just over a metre in depth. I'm glad you said 30 feet because it doesn't make you look like an idiot, because we excavate some sites like Jorvik, right? And the Viking archaeology in Jorvik is about 10 metres below level, right? 30 feet in depth, 10 metres below level, right? 10 metres. And it's Viking, it's only 1,000 years old. Why is this stuff only a metre? It's the way the landscape forms and deposits. In London, right? You've got to go really, really deep to get the Roman archaeology because of all the muds and all the buildings and all the rest of it. Or you can go in the middle of a field and find a mosaic, Roman mosaic, literally inches below the surface. Or you can go to a site like this and find something Paleolithic, which is 11,000 years old, and find that it's only a metre below the surface. Or go to another Paleolithic site and find out it's how many foot below the surface?
50,
yeah, I'll do.
One is saying the Starcar community there was the Virgin community. They were then able to
Maybe they were, maybe they would, but the main thing about Starcar it's all we've got to go on. It's all we've got to go with. And we worked out when I showed you this image ages ago that a woman is not an archaeologist. She's a TV presenter.
Oh, not Alice. It's not Alice.
No, it's not. It's not Alice, but it's another. It's another TV presenter. You can tell that she's not far below the surface there. The archaeology, just over about a metre in depth. And look at that timber there. No other that there, the top there, is under a metre in depth to the top, and that's part of the settlement.
Alice her name is,
That's not Alice. No, that's not her legs. I know Alice's legs.
Okay.
Don't ask.
Okay.
So there's a lot of details
Yeah, exactly.
I survived that.
And it's ploughed today, and it's an agricultural landscape, so it's preserved. It's really well. You could tell an idea of scale there. That person's reaching their arm in, and there's the top. It's not deep at all. But this is in the Lake Flixton bit where the settlement was, and coming over to there is sort of dry land. And that's okay. I'm okay with that illustration. We're not going to criticise it too much. There's your husband there, Alan. Linda.
Right, I'll tell you that tomorrow.
He's a bit rough, isn't he?
My husband is not rough. He's a Valleys boy, that's
Oh, he is rough.
They're not rough, Valleys boys, actually.
They are.
You come from Barry, that's where they're rough. Valleys boys are...
Did I deserve that?
Yeah,
Rick,
I want to go
Valleys
by.
boys.
Hey, I'm not going to have a word with you. I'm not talking to you anymore. When I had the window put in the car the other day, right? I said to the guy who put it in, right? I said, oh well, you know, I got one of my confidants who lives in my steg, who's got the cheek to turn around to say that he won't park his car in Barry because he thinks it's going to be nicked, and he burst out in laughter.
What do you say? Oh, I agree.
He had a car nicked in my steg. See, there you go.
Yeah, she's Gavin and Steve's here, isn't he?
So there you go. You've got this weird landscape. I'm glad they put the trees in there. The trees are based on the archaeology that they found. Okay, that's an aspen. That's probably an aspen as well. And these buildings along here are based the dry land buildings, and then you've got the landscape beyond, the canoes excavated, which have been found in the archaeology. So we know all that. We know all that from the archaeology. Don't worry about that one. I like this one. Do you know that illustration I showed you at the beginning of Oik?
Yep.
See it now. I said Oik. He's happy.
No, I'm not happy.
Why are you happy?
Because you're saying it with an O-I.
I said Oik.
Hoik.
I said Oik.
No, you're still...
He said, oink.
Oh, let's just move on. Let's just get over it.
Try it with an A-W.
It's H-O-W.
It's not.
It is.
Oh, that one that you're referring to, yeah.
Oh my God! You're on about a different country.
I am.
It's
It's
not the
Scottish
one.
borders.
I'm on about H-O-W.
Okay.
Alright, yeah. H-O-W, yeah.
H-O-W-I-C-K. Thank you.
O-W-I-C-K. Howick, yeah, Howick.
Oh, yeah, you're really...
Pronounced like
Yeah.
Same as main building, Cathy main building.
What about that place on that? Oh, Hattiesburg.
Yeah, Hillsborough.
Haysborough. whatever, is Haysborough. That there, you can see that that's one of the, yes, double image is superimposed. That's where they found one of the buildings on dry land, and that's based on the water deposits with the other settlement out here. And that's on dry land, so you've got canoes, you've got somebody with a good set of clothing on, and that's a reed house. You've got a reed roof on it, a nice reed roof. And that would have been really well insulated, except the doorway's probably too higher than it should be. The doorway should be shallower than that to be able to keep the heating. Yes, we've got, we know that they've got divisions, they've got boundaries, they've got areas, you've got the watering here. And by the way, we're going to have a quick break for 5 minutes. And we'll go on to Pont Newydd in a minute. And there I am again. Right, okay. So I'm going to put the kettle on, and do you know what? We're going to multitask. I'm going to, Bill, you've never seen this before. I'm going to teach, and I'm going to put the kettle on at the same time. That's never been known. Nobody has ever done that in the history of teaching. Shut up, Glenda. Right, okay. Let's carry on. And do you know what? I'm going to put my doodah effort in. And we're going to quickly look at the thingamajig Firkin doodah, and then we're going to go on. You glaze over sometimes, Glenda.
Sorry?
You glaze over.
No.
It goes over your head.
He does work me off for this. The other upstairs in the book.
We got a new bloke in we got a new bloke in Lancet Major. It's the second time he's been around now, right? He's not the one that they like him. And he said I got a bone to pick with you. He said, why were you looking at a Land Rover the other day, touching it and all the rest of it? Was that? And I said, was that the Land Rover with the number 28 on the side? He said, yeah, that's the Land Rover directly outside my house. You were on my drive for ages looking at this. I didn't know it was his house. Anyway, he loves Land Rovers. He's got a name for his Land Rover as well, which is quite bizarre. And here we go. Go away. I don't want this. Right, good. Now, the oldest people in Wales, Neanderthal teeth. What just happened then? I've only just put it on. Right, there you go. And there we go. The oldest people in Wales, Neolithic teeth. The only way I'm going to deal with this is to do this. This virus may be sending your credit card details. Hang on. Right, go. Nobody can read it now because I just pulled the thing out. It's your fault, Glenda.
I bet you pressed every button on there, and that's why you've got viruses.
I'm not. Why would it? Look, it's just happened. And if anything comes through now, right, it's fake. Oh, but there you go. Glenda, don't worry. Oh, fiddlesticks. Bill, it's your fault. You've ruined my life. Excavations at Pont Newydd Cave, Denbighshire, have discovered the oldest human remain. There's that illustration I showed you earlier on, and there's the teeth. I've given a date of about 250,000 years ago because the dates do vary. Excavations 1977, 1978. There's been new excavations since 1995. 19 teeth found, human teeth, Neanderthal teeth. And the very interesting thing about this is that after the Neanderthals had used the cave, over 100,000 years later, it was used by our direct human ancestors. And we've done all that there. So it's a very interesting thing that we've got these teeth. So that's that of a jawbone of a 9-year-old, and you can see that the effect that taurodontism has on teeth themselves. So what happens? The root itself grows and fuses together in the jaw, and it's kept together obviously by the gums and everything else like that. But what happens is that the roots themselves don't get any wider. It's the bone that actually fuses together, and all the rest of it, all the components of the tooth actually fuse together. But the root is actually kept in place. It's actually still anchored to your jaw. So this is actually from a 9-year-old, and they look actually perfect molars from above, but underneath there are these thick, stocky roots. Moving on. The teeth, as we know, have been X-rayed, taurodontism. characteristic feature of Neanderthals, but not necessarily unique to Neanderthals. Modern day humans can get taurodontism as well. People discovered in Pont Newydd Cave range in age from young children to adults. The most complete discovery from the site is the fragment of an upper jaw of a child aged around 9 years. In the jaw is a heavily worn milk tooth, can be seen sitting next to the newly erupted permanent molar. And I think maybe, I don't know if it's actually described, I've always, I think it might actually be describing this. These two teeth. Would you agree? Yeah. So that's obviously the milk tooth, and that's the new one. Yeah? This is from a 9-year-old. And this next bit here. The teeth were not found on their own in the cave. Alongside them were stone tools and animal bones. So obviously you've got human remains, stone tools and animal bones, some which show signs of butchery. But it's we talk about the animal bones, not the human bones, but we've taken away the taboo from that anyway. So even if they did show signs of butchery, the humanoid remains from the Neanderthal, there's nothing wrong with it. Let's get rid of that taboo. Evidence that these were the food remains of the Neanderthals, maybe. Now, big question. Questions remain as to whether these humans were originally buried in graves within the cave. The cave has since been washed through by the meltwater from the retreating ice sheets at the end of the last ice age. Unfortunately, the forces that have remarkably led to the preservation of these teeth deep within Pont Newydd Cave destroyed any traces of their original context. So what we're talking about, the cave system itself would have been used naturally draining water away at the time of glacial melt. But nevertheless, large quantities of human remains and animal bones have remained in the cave. On that note, we're going to take a very, very quick break. So stop the clock, and I'm going to take the Deutschmarks, Reichsmarks off you. And I'm going to take my clothes off as I do it as well. Why haven't we got any biscuits?
Because you didn't bring any.
They're in the cupboard.
Oh, I don't know where the cupboard is.
Yeah, well, you're one of the boys, you don't need to know.
I'm one of the boys. Is everyone going to use their cup still?
Would it be good to be a Londoner? Because I love Londoner.
Because I'm not a
I know I am. Do you know I used to be this boy in school at tennis?
Good, would you?
An original.
Right. I don't give a damn if it's infected by a blooming virus. Right.
Why is that changed to Bont?
Bont. Right, anyway, this is part 2. Giving you a little bit of extra information. Obviously, the Pont Newydd, meaning the wonderful place of the bridge, or the new bridge. We've given you all these dates, and we know it's a Neanderthal boy, excavated by Dr. Stephen Alderhouse Green by the University of Wales back in the day, 1978. And we've also mentioned the taurodontism as well. Just one little thing to pick up from this, that they found other species in the cave, which we're going to go on to now with my next piece. The Canis lupus, a type of wolf that hunted the landscape around 250,000 years ago. So the next little thing I want us to turn to, if I may, is this one here. Now this is actually the official archive report for the site, so we'll do this. The site being excavated back in 1978, lots of this stuff being found in 1977. But there's some interesting stuff from this report. The site was originally explored in the 1800s by a certain guy by the name of Boyd Dawkins. This is on the official record for the site. It's not as consistent as it could be, and I'm sorry if you can't read large chunks of that. But not only do we have evidence of our Neanderthal friends, but we've got evidence of our own human lineage dating back 128,000 years ago. So we've got evidence not only of Neanderthals in the cave, but our own direct descendants. Not descendants, ancestors, sorry. It goes on to say that a number of artifacts found in the cave, found in 1984, indicated that it was a collection site for a large amount of artifacts that have flowed into the cave from above, as various meltwaters from various periods have made their way through the system. Various scrapers, flints of various periods have actually been found in there, and in 1987 they decided to occupy their excavation skills on the entrance deposits, which are 6 meters in depth. So finding archaeology that deep, you can imagine the health and safety implications for excavating that deep. Here we go, cave occupied. That's where I get my date from, 250,000 years ago. By Neanderthal populations, it says Neanderthal lineage, which is a nice word to use. It's not discounting the fact that these Neanderthals may have already started interbreeding 250,000 years ago. At the end of the day, we've got to look at it in bog standard mathematics, right? These Neanderthals looked and acted like human beings. They were very similar to their human being cousins. They had more hair than we do today, so did our Homo sapien ancestors. They had a large amount of hair. And it's said as well that Neanderthals may have brought the skills of painting to our own direct ancestors, our Homo sapiens. It's likely as well that Neanderthals